was a steadfast and wise leader who nurtured his people and played an instrumental role in promoting peace, unity, and cultural development in the Emirate and in Nigeria and beyond. The passing of His Royal Highness marks the end of a great era, and his death is a profound loss not only to the people of Ningi and Bauchi State, but also to the entire nation. I kindly request the Senate to observe a minute's silence in his honor and extend condolences to his family, the people of Ningi Emirate and Bauchi State. May Almighty Allah grant His Royal Highness eternal peace, and the family and the people of Ningi the fortitude to bear this great loss. Thank you, distinguished colleagues, for your attention. This is signed by Senator Abdul Ahmed Ningi, OON-CON, distinguished senator representing Bauchi Central Senatorial District. Without even going to the next announcement, I want, on behalf of the National Assembly, to extend our heartfelt condolences to distinguished Senator Abdul Ahmed Ningi, the good people of Ningi, the family, the Emirate Council, the people of Bauchi, and Nigerians who came in contact with His Royal Highness whilst he was alive. Please accept our condolences from the 10th Senate, and may his great soul rest in perfect peace. Letter of appreciation. This is from distinguished Senator Victor Ome, OFR. I write on behalf of myself, my wife, Lady Priska, and our children to express our profound appreciation to all our distinguished colleagues who attended the traditional wedding reception and the church weddings of my daughter, Chidima Uzuamaka Ume, and her spouse, Obinna Cyril Ifeanyi, on 3rd day of August 2024 in Enugu, and also on the 17th day of August 2024 in Lagos, respectively. The leader of the South East Caucus, Senator Eyinaya Baribe, led the delegation to the traditional wedding reception in Enugu on the 3rd day of August 2024 on behalf of the Senate. His Excellency, the Senate President, in a remarkable demonstration of solidarity. I'll take that again. His Excellency, the Senate President, in a remarkable demonstration of solidarity, led over 22 distinguished senators to attend the church and wedding reception events in Lagos. The Senate President attended all the ceremonies and extended all the courtesies to the newly married couple. We lack the appropriate words to convey our gratitude for the show of love and gifts. Chairman, National Hajj Commission, NARCOM. In accordance with the provisions of Section 3, Subsection 2 of the National Hajj Commission, NARCOM Act 2006, I am pleased to present for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of Professor Abdullahi Saleh Usman as Chairman, National Hajj Commission of Nigeria. While hoping that the request will receive the expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept, distinguished Senate President and distinguished senators, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is referred to the Committee on Foreign Affairs to report back to the Senate in 1 week. Yesterday, we read the request of the President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of Dr. Badamasi Lawal as the Coordinator and CEO, National Social Investment Program Agency. And we refer it to the Committees on Special Duties and the referral is actually meant to go to the Committee on Poverty Alleviation and Social Investment. So this is accordingly directed. Any petitions?
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is President, distinguished colleagues. I come under Order 41 and 51 of our standing orders.
Emir of Ningi by observing 1 minute silence in his honor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The soul of our departed patriarch, the Emir of Ningi, rests in perfect peace.
It's definitely urgent. It's definite and urgent. If the claim is a Senate, the demise of a patriot and a statesman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, our brother again saying that Chief Iwoyanwo was a great Nigerian. Therefore, the view of the Senate that he be allowed to proceed on that matter of urgent national importance. Those in support say aye. Those in
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished 25th, 2024, after a brief illness at the age of 82, has left an indelible void in the hearts of many across the nation. Chief Iwoyanwo was a man of many parts, a renowned businessman, philanthropist, political leader, and media mogul. His contributions to Nigeria's economic, political, and social spheres were nothing short of monumental. As founder of Champion newspapers and a key player in diverse business ventures, Chief Iwoyanwo not only created opportunities for countless Nigerians, but also contributed significantly to the growth of the Nigerian economy. His name became synonymous with integrity, innovation, and unyielding dedication to the betterment of our great country. His leadership of the Apex Socio-Cultural Organization of Igbos in Nigeria and in the diaspora, Ohaneze, marked a period of renewed focus on the cultural, political, and economic aspirations of the Igbo nation, advocating for unity and collaboration among communities and promoting peace and understanding across ethnic divide. As a committed public servant and political leader, Chief Iwoyanwo worked tirelessly for national unity and progress. His leadership in politics, his service as member of various national committees, and his active role in shaping Nigeria's democratic evolution speak to his deep commitment to a stable, just, and prosperous Nigeria. He was a true advocate of the people, consistently striving for policies that uplift the less privileged and empower the voiceless. His legacy extends beyond the corridors of business and politics. He was a philanthropist at heart, with a passion for education and youth empowerment. Through the Iwoyanwo Foundation, he provided scholarships to thousands of Nigerian youths, giving them the tool to build a better future. His enduring belief in the transformative power of education and his relentless pursuit of excellence made him a beacon of hope to many. We cannot speak of Ahead Agamba without mentioning his love for sports, especially football. He was a passionate supporter and benefactor of Nigerian football, and his investments in the sector helped bring joy and national pride to countless citizens. His dedication to the advancement of Nigerian sports, particularly through his Iwanyanwu National Club, now Heartland FC, earned him respect both at home and abroad. In Chief Iwanyanwu, we have lost not only a giant of our time, but also a man of humility, wisdom, and unwavering dedication to the service of humanity. His life was one of selfless service, and his legacy will continue to inspire generations to come. As we mourn his passing, we must also celebrate his life, a life that was rich in purpose, full of accomplishments, and deeply rooted in the values of patriotism, hard work, and compassion. Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu may be gone, but his contributions to our nation will forever live on in the annals of our history. May his soul rest in perfect peace, and may his family and loved ones find comfort in knowing that he touched the lives of so many in such profound ways. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in light of the immense contributions of Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu to our nation's progress and development, I move that this distinguished Senate accordingly resolves to observe a minute's silence in honor of Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, a patriot and statesman who dedicated his life to the service of Nigeria. Constitute a special delegation to represent the National Assembly at the burial rites of Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu. Urge the federal government of Nigeria to immortalize Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu by naming a national structure or monument after him in recognition of his exceptional service and his lasting legacy in business, politics, and philanthropy. I so move, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to join my brother, Senator Onyeuchi Ezenwa, to express our profound sense of loss following the death and exit of this giant and colossus that bestrode this nation in the past 82 years. Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, his life and essence has been well captured by my distinguished brother in this motion. He went into deep reflection of his life and his activities. But it is worthy to note that despite being a very consummate politician, Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu cannot be described by anybody in the negative realm. He was somebody who abhorred confrontation. He believed in dialogue and in diplomacy in dealing with any issue of concern, both to his people and to the rest of Nigeria. He has been well captured as a nationalist in this motion because Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu played several roles worthy of remembrance in this country. My brother did not remember that he floated one of the airlines, Oriental Airlines, that played very great role in the aviation industry. In newspaper, he owns the Champion newspapers. So he invested in all sectors that were useful in promoting national development. In his last years, our people found him worthy to lead Ohanes Ndigbo worldwide. That organization is an organization that can only be led by somebody who is noble in character, somebody who is fearless, somebody who will speak the truth at all times. He provided this leadership in the past few years before he went down. Our consolation is that before he died, the chairman of the Southeast Caucus of this Senate had to lead a delegation to see him in his sickbed, where he wished this country well and encouraged everybody in leadership in Nigeria to think about the poor people of Nigeria, the less privileged, how we can help to solve the problems in the country. He preached unity. That was what he tried to use Ohanes Ndigbo to advance, trying to build bridges, trying to reach out to leaderships of this country in a way to bring everybody together. Now that he has gone, we pray that his death will not rob us of his pristine beliefs that we are better together than divided. So I join to say that Nigeria has lost a great man. I know that people from all parts of Nigeria know Iwanyang and they may like to contribute. So may his soul rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. Mr. President, Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyawu is indeed a household name in the entire scope of Nigerian society. His influence goes far beyond the eastern part of the country, especially within the Igbo nation. For me, Mr. President, one of the highlights of Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyawu's adventure in this world is the establishment of the famous Iwanyawu National. He founded a team that was not only a pride to Nigeria, but a pride to Africa. Iwanyawu occupied then, Iwanyawu National occupied in our sporting calendar a no-forgotten football club that has led this national competition times and times again. And he was one of the very few Nigerians that ventured to sponsor a team that became national champions. Therefore, Mr. Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyawu lost, and for the time he was funding the Iwanyawu National, he was the star of Nigerian sports. Secondly, Mr. President, Iwanyawu was a member of the Board of Trustees of our famous party, the PDP. I had in several occasions listened to him. One of the few big Nigerians that is so peaceful in understanding the oneness of this country. At every given time when Iwanyawu speaks, he doesn't speak about Igbos. He doesn't only speak about northern Nigeria or southern Nigeria. He speaks about Nigeria. And therefore, when a character of this nature is lost, it is incumbent of all of us to rise to mention him, mention his name, because Iwanyawu's name will be written in gold. And I support this motion in particular of the mention that something of national significance must be named after this gentleman who has given his all in bringing about peace and unity to Nigerians. I so submit, Mr. President.
I want to thank Senator Onyewuchi Ezenwa for bringing this beautiful motion. Chief Iwanyanwu is like a mentor to me. I almost worked with him all my life. I used to lead the Iwanyanwu National to all parts of Africa to play. And that is how I dependently found a lot of interest in football. I used to be the leader of Iwanyanwu National. When he was alive, the daughter can testify that. And he made me almost the vice chairman of the team because I handled the team from his pocket and my pocket. In 1988, 89, 90, 91, I led the Iwanyanwu National everywhere because of Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu. And Chief Emmanuel Iwanyanwu also made me to enter into the aircraft business. He made me, from his Oriental airline, I opened the Slug airline. He also made me to open the Sun newspaper and the Telegraph newspaper and the Sporting Sun. Because everything he laid foundation about, we are still holding the flag for him. I know that somebody must die. And he died at the ripe age. Whether anybody wants to agree with this or not, he's gone, and all of us will go one day. It's just a question of time. So, Mr. President, I don't want to waste much time than to appreciate a thorough gentleman called Mr. Iwanyanwu, who is gone, and also to tell you that we are not going to depart from the family friendship we have had with him, minding since I left school. I've been with him, and I will continue to be with the family. I want to thank the governor of Imo State, which had played a leading role in keeping Chief Iwanyanwu all over the world, taking him to hospitals and everywhere, and thank the Imo people, both the civil servant and the businessmen, and thank the family, and also thank Senator Ezenwa and other senators from Imo State. May he so rest in peace, and I urge my colleagues that anything we have put in this motion, that they should please allow us to accept it in good faith. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. By giving the opportunity, every single senator would like to say something good about this man. But I think the most important thing to the family is for them to know that collectively, the Nigerian Senate recognizes his invaluable contributions to the growth and development of this country and his propagation of unity, particularly as the immediate past chairman of Ohanes and Igbo. So I want to thank all for all your contributions and those who also intend to contribute when we go to meet the family by way of delegation. So we go straight into the prayers. Prayer 1, observe a minute silence in honor of Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, a patriot, a statesman who dedicated his life to the service of Nigeria and its people. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, constitute a special delegation to represent the Senate at the burial rites of Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government of Nigeria to immortalize Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu's name by naming a national monument after him in recognition of his exceptional services and his lasting legacies, both in business and politics, and even in philanthropy to the nation. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Like I said, I thank everybody. I personally knew Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu. I interacted with him. He was a great man, a man of peace, a man who tried to mold his people together. This represents a very great loss to Imo State, to Ndigbo as a whole, and to Nigeria. And even in the field of business, he was a colossus, In sports, he was a colossus. His contribution to the development of youths will never be forgotten. His football club, Iwayo Football Club, was one of the best in Africa, not just in Nigeria alone. So from my own point of view, I also extend my heartfelt condolences to his family. So may we now rise for 1 minute silence in honor of this great man. May the great soul of late Dr. Emmanuel Iwayan, a great Nigerian patriot statesman, rest in perfect peace. Amen. Very important items on the agenda, but one of them was the one we referred to the Committee of the Whole yesterday. And I feel that because of time, we should quickly abridge what we are doing and go into the confirmation and screening processes. So, Leader of the Senate.
To move that the first order of the day would have been the presentation of an hearing of the letter was referred to the Committee of the Senate. And may I, at this point, inform that, consistent with the character of our judges and justices, to start their day early, sitting at 9 a.m., they have actually been around in the National Assembly for a while, even though we had indicated that the confirmation hearing will commence by 12 noon. So at this point, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that we reorder our legislative business for the day to be able to make the confirmation hearing of the new CJN the very first order of the day. I so move, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved by the Senate leader.
And seconded that the order paper be readjusted to start with those in support of the motion and move fast. Yes, Senate Leader.
The first is the screening of the Honorable Justice Kudirat Mutomori Olatokunbo Kekereekun for appointment as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, in order to carry out this exercise in conformity with our Standing Order 12 on floor privileges, I will move two separate motions. First, I move, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to conduct the confirmation hearings, and that this be done once the second motion is dispensed with. Mr. President, my second motion will be that the Senate do admit the nominee as well as the accompanying justices of the Supreme Court, the heads of court, the justices of the Court of Appeal, and other judicial officers accompanying the nominee, as well as the special advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly matters and other dignitaries accompanying the nominee, classified by our rules as strangers into this hallowed chamber. Mr. President, I so move.
Minority Leader. Distinguished colleagues, in accordance with the provisions of our privileges, section 12 of the order paper, we do suspend our rules to allow strangers the left side of the gallery, and the chief whip would lead. The sergeant at arms first clear the left side of the gallery to allow the strangers to occupy the chambers. Arrival of the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, I'll plead with our colleagues that we must maintain the highest standards as usual. The chambers must be quiet, movements must be restricted, discussions must be suspended to enable us to listen attentively to what the judiciary will offer Nigeria in the nearest future. In the meantime, distinguished Senator Salio Mustafa with Senator Jimmy Guta, just to mention that today is your birthday and you have refused to allow us to know because you don't want us to ask you how old you are. But on behalf of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and your dear colleagues, I want to wish you a very happy birthday. Today is 25th day of September. You were born today. So even if you don't want us to know, me, I know. So we wish you the best that life can give you, good health, promotion, peace of mind and body. Congratulations. Distinguished colleagues, let me On behalf of the 10 Senates of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, welcome strangers into the hallowed chambers of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in this case led by the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Motomori, Olatokunbo Kekereekun, CFR. Unfortunately, my Lord, in the Senate, we don't clap. We would have clapped for you. So I want to also welcome your brother justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the president of the Court of Appeal of Nigeria, and other JCS, and also welcome the heads of various courts, the Federal High Court, the heads of the High Court of the FCT, and then, of course, the Secretary of the NJC, and the Secretary of the Federal High Court Judicial Service. I have seen the ones I can recognize from here, but this is the top echelon of the Nigerian judiciary. Upon your shoulders rests justice for us and also for the common man. I must say that when it comes to issue of justice, it concerns all and sundry. And so this screening and confirmation is of immense interest to all Nigerians. I'm taking this liberty of the distribution of the CVs to do this brief introduction or brief comments. Otherwise, there would have been no time, would have gone straight into business. But I want my colleagues to peruse through the CVs as they are being distributed now. So the press to shift a little to enable us capture from the Special Advisor to Mr. President on Senate matters, Senator Lado, all the way down. In no particular order, I believe I know a lot of the justices of the Supreme Court who are here to honor the Senate and also honor the incoming Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is currently in acting capacity. So I welcome all of you. I wish you good health and God's protection. Yes, Leader of the Senate.
What is left again is to reemphasize my earlier motion to enable us commence the confirmation hearing of the CJN designate, who is already acting, of course, as CJN. I so move, Mr.
Minority Leader.
Yeah, that they also resolve into committee of whole to consider the application. I so second.
Put forward and seconded by the Minority Leader that did to committee of the whole to commence the confirmation screening. The aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we resolve into committee of the whole.
I would like to read the provision. Thank you, sir. Section 231, sub 1, says the appointment of a person to the office of Chief Justice of Nigeria shall be made by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to confirmation of such appointment by the Senate. Mr. President, it's important that we say for the record that the judiciary is one arm of government that has continued to be consistent in ensuring that they follow their rules and that in ensuring that the most senior justice of the Court of Appeal is nominated, of the Supreme Court is nominated as the incoming Chief Justice of Nigeria. And Mr. President, this cannot be lost on us, and it should not be lost on Nigerians, because it's important that we follow our own rules. I want to also commend Mr. President for ensuring that nothing took this administration out of this consistency. And having said that, Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, what is left for me, this being the committee of the whole, is just to most respectfully at this point present, standing before this Senate and in this hallowed chamber, the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, who, if and when confirmed by this president, would be the next, confirmed by this Senate, would be the next substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria. And she had earlier been introduced. She doesn't need any elaborate introduction. It's known to all and sundry. And you have also rightly welcomed her and members of her entourage into the Senate. But Mr. President, may you and our distinguished colleagues kindly please take legislative notice of the fact that the acting CJN is here standing before us and is ready for the confirmation hearing of this Senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
And at the same time, I want you to know that in Nigeria, many people are fugitives from reality. Even if you read the standard of ensuring that the Supreme Court, the most senior, becomes the Chief Justice of Nigeria. So I'm just saying that because anybody can rise up tomorrow and say anything, but that is what President Bola actually has followed, and we want to applaud him for not bending the rules of shifting ground from the norms of the judiciary. Because when there is lawlessness in society, people will tend to lose confidence in the law. My Lord, Chief Justice, I will give you a few minutes to introduce yourself, and thereafter I will answer a few questions for my colleagues. I will go into
the Deputy Senate President, the principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, my family members who are here, my husband, Mr. Akeke Owefa, and my brother, Honorable H.E.B. Fasano, my colleagues of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justices of the Supreme Court, the President of the Court of Appeal, President of the National Industrial Court, the Chief Judge of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, the President of the Sharia Court of Appeal, the President of Abuja FCT, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kudirat Motomori Olatokumbo. Kekere-Ekun. I was born on the 7th of May, 1958 in London, UK, to the family of Alhaji Senator H.A.B. Fasenro of Erelu Square, Isaleko, Lagos, and Mrs. Winifred Laiwola Ogundimu, née Savage of Ologbo area, Lagos, both of Lagos Central Senatorial District. I'm happy to say that my father was once in this hallowed chamber. Ikoyi and Corona School Ikoyi, from where I moved to Queen's College Yaba for my secondary education. I obtained my ordinary level school certificate in 1974 and my higher school certificate in 1976. Of Lagos in 1977, and I graduated in 1980. Thereafter, I proceeded to the Nigerian Law School, and I was called to the Nigerian Bar on the 10th of July, 1981. After my call, I proceeded for the one-year compulsory national youth service. I served in the old Bendel State, now Edo State, and I served as a state counsel in the Ministry of Justice Legal Drafting Department. After my youth service, I proceeded to the London School of Economics and Political Science, where I obtained a master's degree in law. Thereafter, I obtained a master's degree in 1983, and from that time, I was in private legal practice until 1989, when I joined the lower bench as a magistrate grade 2. I rose to the position of Chief Magistrate grade 2, and from there was appointed a judge of the High Court of Lagos State on the 19th of July, 1996. Shortly after my appointment as a High Court judge, firearms tribunals. I chaired that tribunal from 1996 until 1999, when those tribunals were abolished. At the same time, I was also carrying out my regular duties as a judge of the High Court. I had several ad hoc assignments during that time. Two of them that are quite worthy of mention is I was a member of the committee that drafted the Lagos State High Court Civil Procedure Rules in 2004. Those rules brought in a lot of reform in civil procedure. They introduced new concepts such as front-loading, where you file all the documents you intend to rely on along with your originating process, as long as witness statements on oath, so that it will cut down the time spent on trial by starting immediately with cross-examination. We also introduced compulsory reference to ADR, and those rules became the model for all the states of the Federation. Another innovation while I was in the High Court was I was a member of the steering committee of the Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse. That is the first court-connected ADR center in Africa. That model has also been adopted across the Federation to reduce dockets and speed trials. From the High Court, I was elevated to the Court of Appeal in September 2004. While at the Court of Appeal, I served in various divisions. I served in Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, Makurdi, and Akure divisions. I was the first presiding justice in the Makurdi division of the Court of Appeal. I set up that division of the Court of Appeal. I also served on the Information Technology Committee of the Court of Appeal. By the grace of God, on the 8th of July 2013, I was appointed a justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. I was the 5th female to be appointed to such a position. In the course of my career as a judicial officer, I have always strived to maintain my integrity, to uphold the rule of law, to ensure that I do justice in all the matters that come before me. Some of these positions that I have mentioned, I believe, have also shown my leadership qualities. Presently, I am the chairman now of the National Judicial Council, but I had served as the vice chairman of the National Judicial Council and also the chairman of the interview committee. I'm also on the board of governors of the National Judicial Institute and chairman of the education committee. I also serve on the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee. I'm also a member of a subcommittee of the Body of Benchers that looked into conflicting judgments, the challenge of conflicting judgments. I have also received many awards for my work, my dedication. I've been honored 3 times by the Lagos State Judiciary. I've been honored by the Women Lawyers Forum and so many others. By the grace of God, I was conferred with the national honor of Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic in October 2022. I am a life bencher. I'm a fellow of the National Judicial Institute, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, and also a fellow of the Dispute Resolution Institute, International Dispute Resolution. These are my credentials, and I stand before you today with a pledge to do my best to uphold the integrity of the judiciary, to uphold the rule of law, to ensure that we defend the Constitution, and to work for the service and interest of all Nigerians. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Colleagues, you have heard from the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is here before you, and I just want to employ her to take her seat while she's jotting down the questions. So you may decide to take 2 questions at a time, or 3 questions, but you will sit down and jot down the questions. We don't want you to stand throughout.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you. The acting CJN for being nominated by Mr. President to serve, and the NJC, to serve as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Well, you are here for screening. And I think the best aspect of determining the suitability of every nominee by these chambers, number 1 is the practical performance of such a nominee. For you, we've known you over the years. We've known your exploits in the judiciary of this nation. Been following you. You are known to us. And you've done very, very well. And you are still doing very well. That said, the CV you brought here is loaded with your excellent performance, exploits in the judiciary. That's not in doubt. Well loaded. It shows you have a wonderful pedigree in line with your practical performance. This we all know. So to me, you are highly suitable for this position. This is my personal opinion, and I'm sure most of my colleagues here share the same opinion with me. That said, I will want to ask you a question, because I want you to bring your sound pedigree to bear in your office when confirmed as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria. We know that having integrity in our judiciary is something that is important, sine qua non for the sustenance of our democracy. Now, what will you do when confirmed as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria to ensure that you uphold, or we all uphold, or you uphold the integrity of our judiciary? Nigeria want to hear, because we know you have a wonderful pedigree, you were demonstrated out over the years in doing well in all assignments given to you. We've seen that over the years. So how will you bring that to bear in ensuring that we have integrity in the performance of our judiciary? Thank you, Mr. President.
Are you doubting the integrity of the judiciary?
No, we want the best.
No, it's important because
I want her to tell Nigeria.
Are you having doubts?
Well, I'm not saying. In Hausa, there's an adage. Woman kyan mutum sai ya kara da wanka. If it is good, we want it to be enhanced.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
No,
Sitting as chairman, my name is Senator Mohammed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North and immediate first chairman of the Judiciary Committee before my elevation to be the Chief Whip of the Senate. Acting Chief Judge, or Chief Justice of Nigeria, congratulations for your nomination and possible confirmation by the Senate. I adopt all the encomiums put on you based on the resume that you have submitted by the immediate first speaker, the distinguished Deputy Senate President, as mine, and wish to ask a question to the effect that the independence of the judiciary is sine qua non for the achievement of an egalitarian and just society. Once the independence of the judiciary is compromised or threatened, then it is an invitation to chaos and anarchy. So the judiciary should not only be seen to be independent, but should be seen manifestly to be independent. If, by the wisdom of the Senate, if confirmed, what steps are you going to take to ensure the independence of the judiciary so that our quest to achieve a just and egalitarian society will be achieved and will not be a mirage? Then the other one is the stagnation of cases in the Supreme Court. And as such, there are various schools of thoughts to the effect that there is a need to restrict the number of cases that goes to the Supreme Court in order to free the Supreme Court from the backlog of stagnation of cases that goes to the Supreme Court. Then the other alternative is to enlarge the number of justices in the Supreme Court so that cases will be dispensed quickly, because in consonance with the adage that justice delayed is justice denied. Then the other issue is, in view of the controversy and the heat generated with regard to contestation for power that normally ends in our court instead of the people deciding it. It's like now it is the courts that decide who governs as opposed to the people. So there is serious contestation for power, and the battle is taken to the courts. And as a result of that, in order to insulate the judiciary from the vagaries and vicissitudes of this political influence and what have you, there is a school of thought to the effect that there is need to create a constitutional court that will be vested with the jurisdiction to determine election-related matters. So I want your opinion on this. Well, where do you stand? Where do you stand as a renowned jurist that has attained your present position? Where do you stand on these issues that are raised? Thank you.
I wanted you to ask a question, but you ended up asking questions. Because if I understand you very well, you were more or less on judicial independence. What will she do as Chief Justice of Nigeria to sustain judicial independence or enhance judicial independence? But you also went further to add a political tone that it is judiciary that now determines who rules. I don't think the judiciary determines, I think the people still determine. But when people carry, my place, we have a saying that if somebody carries a basin of death into the market, anybody who has death will throw it in. Is it not we that carry our things to judiciary? We fail to resolve issues at the ballot, and then we run to them. So they have to take the decision as to which of you is fit to be there or not. So are you asking her whether she's going to stop us from going to them? Because they don't initiate cases. We are the ones who initiate cases, so we should advise the political class to settle most of their cases out of court. Am I right? So let me ask the chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters, a senior advocate of Nigeria, to ask a question.
Let me start by congratulating you on your nomination. My question is very simple, and it's taken from a part of your introductory remark where you spoke about conflicting judgments of court. My question, therefore, is what is your view about this menace, not only in terms of courts of ordinate jurisdiction, but also within the same court? And how do you intend to tackle this problem? Thank you very much.
Okay, my attempt to give brief answers to them so that others will have the opportunity of asking you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The Deputy Senate President, Senator Barrow, you asked about how the integrity of the judiciary will be sustained under my leadership. I think the first thing in giving my CV, I said one of the things that I'm known for is integrity. I'm also known for being strict on discipline. And therefore, in order to ensure that the integrity of the judiciary is maintained, I will ensure that the code of conduct is fully complied with. I will ensure that there is zero tolerance for corruption. We have a committee of the NJC that deals with performance evaluation. And what that does is they assess judgments delivered, they assess how judges are performing their functions, and they have regular conferences. And what I know is that we are even making moves now to tighten that performance evaluation process so that we can, when judges submit returns, for instance, it's not about quality, but quantity. It's also about how they carry out their responsibilities. Are they punctual? are they upright and things like that. Now in the NJC also, we are going to ensure that petitions are dealt with speedily. This is another way to let the public know that the integrity of the judiciary will be upheld in all circumstances. Another area for upholding the integrity of the judiciary is that there is a need also to insulate the judiciary from external influence. We are very grateful to His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and the National Assembly for passing the bill that increased salaries of judicial officers. We are very grateful. But there is still a way to go. Because when we are talking about the integrity of the judiciary, it involves not only the take-home pay, it also involves infrastructure that we are working with. What is available? Is it conducive? These are all things that have an effect on how the judiciary performs and what. So in that regard, I will be pushing for still more better welfare for judicial officers so that they too can perform at their optimum best. Thank you. The Chief Whip, Senator Tahir Mongono, representing Borno North. Distinguished Senator, you have asked about the judiciary, the independence of the judiciary, and I know that there are a lot of complaints at the moment about the process of appointment of judicial officers. This is an area that I'm also going to take very, very seriously. The NJC also has a committee working on this to ensure that we make the screening process rigorous, transparent, and something that the citizenry will be satisfied with when judges are appointed. So I'm going to make sure that this is done, and with dispatch. We are looking at other jurisdictions to see how they carry out this process and how we can improve our own process in that regard. I know that once the citizens are comfortable with the manner in which judicial officers are appointed, it makes them have more confidence in the entire system. I will also be encouraging or supporting improvement in our laws. So again, when it comes to the independence of the judiciary, all hands have to be on deck. And I look forward to working with not only the National Assembly, but also the executive to ensure that we have laws in place that enhance our independence. Stagnation of cases in the Supreme Court, whether the number of cases that go to the Supreme Court should be restricted. I am very firmly of the view that there needs to be a limit to the cases that get to the Supreme Court. One of the reasons for this is that the Supreme Court is a policy court. It's supposed to determine matters that have public policy significance, matters relating to the interpretation of the Constitution, or matters where very rare legal issues have come up which require a pronouncement from the Supreme Court. As you know, the constitutional provision gives us 90 days to deliver a judgment from the date of final address. Those 90 days are spent dealing with matters of national significance as well as matters that have no significance on the national stage. I am of the view that many matters should terminate at the Court of Appeal, especially interlocutory appeals. There's also a situation where pre-election matters come all the way to the Supreme Court. Whereas in national and state assembly elections, the substantive elections terminate at the Court of Appeal. I think all pre-election matters should terminate at the Court of Appeal. So many matters need to terminate at the Court of Appeal so that the Supreme Court can really live up to its designation as a policy court. Thank you very much. I don't believe enlarging the number of justices is the solution because the cases are so many. The backlog is tremendous. So even if you increase the number of justices, I believe that sometimes it gives the impression that, oh, there are more justices, so we can even file more appeals. It's more about the jurisdiction of the court, which I think should be limited. Thank you. I think His Excellency, the President of the Senate, has responded to the issue regarding elections. All I would say is that we need to strengthen our institutions, strengthen our attitude to elections so that people have confidence in the system and will not be encouraged to go to court all the time. The chairman of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, you have raised the question about conflicting judgments, and we know that this is a very serious concern. Now we have what is known as the doctrine of stare decisis, where a lower court is expected to follow the decisions of a higher court. Where it is shown that a judicial officer deliberately fails to follow that doctrine, there will be strict consequences. Also, it is necessary because there are so many complaints about conflicting judgments that where these conflicting judgments occur, there will be a need to have committees that will look into them and see how the court can take a position. The proper procedure will take place. The court cannot sit on appeal over its own decisions, but where these matters arise, the court's attention will be brought to them and they will be dealt with speedily. In the Supreme Court, for instance, where the court's attention is drawn to any of such matters, those matters will be fixed expeditiously so that those issues can be resolved. We know that it is a serious problem. It is also an act of misconduct if a judicial officer fails to follow laid down precedent. So this is something that is going to be tackled seriously. And yes, so in terms of the code of conduct, we will be dealing very decisively with matters where we find that this is happening. I also want to say that there are responsibilities for both the bar and the bench. So in this kind of situation, you also have legal practitioners who are aware of the existing precedent and they come and mislead the court. So as the head of the judiciary, I shall ensure that both the bar and the bench are up and doing in this regard, so that the legal practitioners disciplinary committee can also deal with those legal practitioners who are found to have deliberately misled the court. Another reason why you have some of these conflicting decisions is from what I would call forum shopping. So this is another area that will be tackled very seriously and very decisively. Thank you very much.
You are trying to say that, like in ABGA, if somebody loses in the Congress in Anambra State, the person can go to Katsina and get an order that he's the chairman in order to remove Senator Ume. Is that not what No, I'm just saying, I'm giving an example of ABGA. Yes, and then it will emerge from a court in Katsina, while the Congress, where the matter concerns ABGA in Anambra. So that is forum shopping. So I think that must be taken seriously, and I think also it may require the intervention of the National Assembly so that some of these things can be codified. If you notice, I'm trying to make sure that every zone has an opportunity to ask questions so that nobody will say my zone was left out. So my zone was marginalized because she's for the whole country. So I have captured Northwest, I've captured Northeast through the Chief Whip. I have captured so let me look at the Southeast, Senator Tuniwe.
My chairman, I want to ask a very simple question to our distinguished guest who is present. Our dear guest, I read through your CV, different professional affiliations, you are a member, different institutions you attended, from Queen's College Yaba to London School of Economics, University of Lagos, and so. Very impressed. But there are some two pertinent issues which I feel that I should ask you. That if this Senate, 10th Senate of Federal Republic of Nigeria, if we confirm you, whether you are going to take a bold step more than what your predecessors in office have done. These two issues are issues of, one, delay in administration of justice in Nigeria. Second issue is the issue of inefficiency. The Senate President is a lawyer of notable character. And you agree with me, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a medical doctor by training, that there are two major pillars of natural justice, or two elements. Number one, nemo judas and cancer sua, which is that you are not going to be a judge in your case. Second thing is audio altering party, which is here the other side. Now, this Senate or National Assembly in 2015 enacted a law, 2015, Administration of Criminal Justice in Nigeria. But up till now, the issue of delay in the justice dispensation in Nigeria, as well as issue of inefficiency, these two major issues are a major problem of judiciary. If this Senate confirms you, what steps are you going to take to address the issue of delays in our court, as well as increase or improve the issue of inefficiency, so that that issue or that maxim that judiciary is the last hope of common man, and also the issue of that justice delayed is justice denied, that Nigerians will be able to get justice at the appropriate time, not the issue of long delays as was expressed in the court. I rest my case. Thank you.
Okay, you are saying that is Salim Mustafa. This is Senator Salim Mustafa. Okay.
The Senate President, sitting as distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Salim, and also not just to congratulate you, but to adopt and possibly second what has been said from the first speaker, our Deputy Senate President. Looking from your resume, mine is a very simple question, and it is more like a summary of all what has been asked you. Asked by of you today here, is how can you, I want to emphasize that word, access to justice. In your own opinion, you've been practicing for so many years now. There are certain areas you believe needs to be improved upon. There are certain things even those of us from the parliament here can also do to improve on you doing your job better in guaranteeing or improving the access to justice. Thank you very much.
Distinguished senators, our guests ably led by the incoming CJN. Sir, I speak on the side of first, as a deputy, I represent the good people of Plateau South, and the deputy chairman Committee on Judiciary. I'm also speaking as a former governor. I know why I'm saying this. Mr. President, my question to the CJN. When you talk about autonomy, when you talk about independence, you are also talking about autonomy. I happen to chair the committee that on the side of governors that was fighting for the issue of autonomy and independence for the judiciary. We took the steps and we got up to Supreme Court on one aspect. My concern was that aspect that was rejected by the Supreme Court, and that has to do with the capital component. In other words, we are saying that they should, when you are taking charge of autonomy, you want to be autonomous, you must also be autonomous in all aspects, including capital projects. But surprisingly, we took the matter up to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rejected it, rejected autonomy. I say this because when we are talking about my interpretation, not as a lawyer, as a politician, is that when you are talking of autonomy, independence, you must carry everything. It must all be inclusive and also bear the consequences. And so I'm asking my Lord, do you still stand by that, or there is need for reconsideration? Because capital infrastructure is very, very important. It's very, very important if you want to be independent. That has gone, and I'm sure Her Lordship was on that panel, if not presided over that panel. So you are now the CJN, and I have concern about this capital infrastructure, because without it, there is no independence. There is no independence, and so you cannot be absolutely be said to say that you can work without influence from outside.
Thank you.
That is Justice of Nigeria. My question is just straightforward. With your experience and the resume we have seen, you are fully qualified for this office, and Nigeria will need you. And part of that is that we have been having issues between states and federal government, or between the three tiers of government. Now that we are working on reviewing the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is it possible to think of having a constitutional court that will be handling these issues, and also issues related to electoral matters? And lastly, we have a lot of issues on terrorism in this country. So many times there have been arrests, but hardly we have seen such a huge number of arrests going vis-a-vis with adjudication. So I want to know if it is possible for us to have special courts that will also handle cases of terrorism like is being done in other countries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, let me also join millions of Nigerians and my distinguished colleague in celebrating and congratulating Justice Kudirat Olatokunbo Kekereekun, who is the acting CJN of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, my question is very straightforward. Recently, there have been some interference in the appointment of judicial officers. Good example, what is currently happening in Osun State. My question is, how can the current process be improved upon without any controversies? Thank you.
negative perception of judiciary. Mr. Nominee, in the event that this hallowed chamber confirmed you as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, what do you intend to do to reverse the negative perception of judiciary, particularly if you read Nigerian newspapers, even though perception is different from reality? But I think it is important for you and for us to really address this issue. Justice delivery is a problem in Nigeria. You see people that are arrested, put in prison, and some of them spend 3-4 years. And even if they are convicted, they may not be convicted for more than 2 to 3 months, but they end up spending 3 years. And that's why we have terrible prison congestion in this country. So this negative perception, how do you intend to really reverse it? Lastly, Mr. President, the Supreme Court made a very important judicial pronouncement. And this judicial pronouncement was commended by even the National Assembly, the Nigerian press, as negative as they are, as critical as they are, about the local government funds. With your permission, Mr. President, let me quote Section 287. The decision of the Supreme Court shall be enforced in any part of the Federation by all authorities and persons and by courts with subordinate jurisdiction to that of the Supreme Court. So, end of quotation, Mr. President. Nominee, what do you intend to do to enforce the judgment made by the Supreme Court on local government funds that are supposed to be released directly to the local government councils instead of local government joint account? And to be honest, distinguished colleagues, the present insecurity Nigeria is facing is simply because local government have been deprived of these funds. So it is important for the Supreme Court and for all courts in the country to enforce that judgment. I so rest my case, Mr. President. Thank you.
Awaiting trials, where somebody could wait for 2-3 years and then upon conviction 3 months. But the person has wasted 3 years, 4 years. It's happening all over the world, but in Nigeria it's very prevalent. And we want my Lord, the CJN, to proceed ideas on how she was going to checkmate the situation. Then the final question was on the recently pronounced local government judgment of the Supreme Court, which was highly commended all over. But you now asked her, how was she going to enforce? I just want to say that she may need to ignore that aspect, because she's not the one that will enforce her judgment. We will enforce it, but she will punish any courts below her that goes against the judgment of the Supreme Court. But the enforcement is that of the executive. I think so, but maybe if she has other ways of enforcing it, she may do so. And also it behoves on the National Assembly to also ensure that we tinker with the Constitution as well as the Electoral Act to align ourselves with the decision of the Supreme Court. I have said that in different fora outside here, and I've also directed the Deputy Senate President, who is chairman of the Constitutional Amendment Committee, and even yesterday I discussed with the chairman of INEC and others that they must bring proposals to tinker with the Electoral Act to enable us ensure the enforcement of the Supreme Court decision. So even we must join with the executive to align ourselves with the decision that is very popular, because they made a very popular judgment. So let me just get one more question from the south and northeast. Northeast. Distinguished Senator Shehu Kaka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria Designates.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished. How do you propose to tackle the abuse of interim injunctions and ex parte orders by courts? Thank you very much and wish you the best, my
Excellency, distinguished senators, distinguished Senator Dr. Tony Muye, on what bold steps will be taken concerning delays in the administration of justice and inefficiency. Now, delays in the administration of justice. One of the things I would say as an overarching observation is that one of my focus will be to leverage technology, to leverage information technology. We have a judicial information technology policy for the judiciary where there is the national Nigerian case management system, e-filing and so many other things, but it has not fully taken off throughout the Federation. I will ensure that I push for all our courts to be digitized, because that will solve a lot of problems. If the courts are digitized, it's easier to track cases from filing to judgment. It's easy to see the status of any particular case, and therefore heads of courts will have that responsibility to be able to easily check the progress of cases, call judges to order where they are not dealing with their matters expeditiously. Another area would be in the rules of court. A lot of our rules of court presently have many obsolete provisions. They have many provisions that delay rather than speed up the hearing of cases. So I will task heads of courts to look at their rules and see those ones that are no longer effective or no longer serving the cause of justice. I happen to have chaired the Rules Advisory Committee for the Supreme Court. We have just amended our rules that have remained the same for decades by introducing some innovations which we think will help to speed up the administration of justice, and we also hope that it will serve as a template for other courts. We have eliminated certain processes like filing applications for extension of time to file a process. These are some of the processes that fill our dockets and take up precious judicial time. We have made provisions whereby you are given an automatic extension of time in the first instance. In the second instance, you are given an extension of time of the same period with payment of penalty, and thereafter you will not be permitted to amend your process. You will not be given extension of time except in the case of capital punishment. We also have put more responsibility and accountability on legal practitioners, so that if you file a matter in court, if you file an appeal, because we know that appeals are often filed just to delay the hearing of the substantive matter, now we have requirement that along with your notice of appeal, you must have paid whatever costs were awarded against you at the lower court. These are some of the areas that we feel will reduce the matters that come to the court. Where we find that there is abuse of process, counsel will be damnified in costs personally, and there's a consequence if they fail to pay those costs within a stipulated time. They will not be allowed to appear in any superior court of record. We have many other innovations in the rules, but the point being made with the greatest respect is that heads of courts will be directed to also look at their own rules, have their committees to weed out all those provisions that do not enhance speedy dispensation of matters. Another area that will be useful is virtual hearing. Again, we'll be employing technology, especially in criminal matters where you have delays because perhaps suspects cannot be produced from the correctional center, or witnesses or prosecutors being transferred all over the place. At a time, we had a situation where courtrooms were built inside the prison, but it didn't solve the problem. But with the experience we had with COVID-19, we have seen how useful virtual hearing can be, and that is something that I will also encourage so that criminal matters can be disposed of expeditiously. There will also be the need to have consultation with other stakeholders in the justice delivery sector, like the police, the security agencies, correctional centers, and so on. Because it is not just the job of the judges. All the stakeholders need to be involved and need to be on the same page in terms of wanting matters to be concluded speedily. I believe that this position we are in now, where there are so many negative comments about the judiciary, that this is a time that all hands should be on deck to ensure that we actually serve the people freely, fairly, transparently, and effectively. Distinguished Senator Mustafa, Kwara Central, access to justice. How will I enhance access to justice? Again, apart from adopting proactive rules of court, the digitization of the judiciary should also help, because we will also have websites that would have necessary information about what the court is doing, and also judgments to be published as soon as they are delivered. This is something that I will work towards, so that the public, when we are fully digitized, can go on their computers and find out any information about any of our courts in the shortest possible time. We also look at other impediments to access to justice, moving justice closer to the people, being more open, and also to liberalize our processes so that more people can access the courts. Another point I would make is that in addition to matters going before the courts, I will also promote ADR, that is alternative dispute resolution, because this is a way in which we can decongest our courts and everybody can leave the determination of their matter feeling confident. What we always say is that with courts, if you have matters in court, there's always a victor and a vanquished. Whereas when you refer matters to ADR, all the parties can live satisfied. It's also necessary to make our processes more transparent. I think that is covered by the digitization that I'm talking about. This is also capital intensive, so we will also be looking for the necessary support from the relevant institutions. Distinguished Senator Lalong, on independence of the judiciary, autonomy, and the capital component. Now, in that respect, the Supreme Court has spoken. I represent the Supreme Court. I cannot say the Supreme Court has spoken wrongly. However, if there is any situation that arises where the court's attention could be brought to, whatever it is that, and you may want to have another look at, the court cannot review its judgment once delivered. So it's a matter of, if other matters come up, perhaps the court's attention could be drawn to this issue again. Another way of looking at it is that the court interpreted the Constitution as it understood it to be. As the legislature, it is up to your distinguished selves to also have another look at the law and see if there is a way to bring it in line with that decision. Distinguished Senator Musa, on whether there should be a constitutional court for election matters, terrorism, and so on. What I believe is that what is more important is looking at our systems, our processes, as I've said, because no matter how many courts we have, at one point or the other, they'll become congested, and we get back to the same problem. So it's more about looking at our systems to make them more efficient, more effective. Distinguished Senator Olamilekon, appointment of judicial officers. You mentioned interference with the appointment of judicial officers. As I've stated earlier, we will ensure that this process is more rigorous, more transparent, and more acceptable to the people. Distinguished Senator Ailero, on the negative perception of the judiciary, awaiting trial inmates and so on. In fact, we just had this week a conference, a roundtable with heads of courts, and this is one of the matters that came up, and we are exploring ways to ensure that prison decongestion is carried out frequently, so that those who need not be in our correctional centers can be released as quickly as possible. And then I've also suggested that if we have more of virtual hearing, trials would not take as long, because in criminal matters the delay is usually the inability to produce witnesses or to produce the inmates from the correctional centers. If we have more virtual hearing, I believe this matter would be resolved. And then distinguished Senator Kaka, on interim injunction and ex parte orders. The Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers specifically speaks to interim ex parte orders, the power to grant ex parte orders, and that it must not be abused. We continue to press on all our judicial officers that in most cases there is time to put the other side on notice. And where this power to issue ex parte orders is abused, those found responsible will be dealt with decisively. Yes, there are situations where ex parte orders are necessary, but in many cases it may not be so. And where we are made to see that these orders have been granted indiscriminately, those involved will be dealt with decisively. The same thing with interim injunctions. Essentially, it is about judges not abusing the power that they have. And all this will be made very clear to them, and we will tighten our disciplinary procedures in this regard. Thank you very much.
So, but I think all the other regions of the country have been touched. So let's start. We've touched the Southeast. Tony Weir was from Southeast. Unless you have an addendum. Okay, proceed. Leader.
Wearing the golden crown of the people of Ebonyi North Senatorial Zone of Ebonyi State. My Lord, the CJN, I ought to address you as such because equity regards has done which ought to be done. And this Senate does equity. My Lord, I will bother you with one question, which I have seen as part of our social problems in service delivery to Nigerians. My Lord, it is trying to say that today, bail is not free for Nigerians in all our police stations. I say so because in the course of the submission of Mr. President, he said upon the shoulder of the CJN rests justice to all Nigerians. And that is the beginning of serving Nigerians with justice. My Lord, I want to know, is there anything you can do differently by way of practice directive to stop these exploitations of Nigerians in our police stations? It's a fact that speaks for itself. Some of us that were in legal practice before now have seen it and it's happening, and nobody can deny it. Is there anything you can do as the Chief Justice of Nigeria to guarantee the rights of Nigerians under investigation at the police stations? Thank you, my Lord.
But the Swiss Senator of Police, because I know that the CJN can only deal with matters before her. When there is no matter before her, I don't think anybody has ever gone to the Supreme Court to argue that they extorted money from me at the police station. I think we should have a channel to reach the IGP, and then they should also give maybe telephone numbers across the nation. We have taken up with the Inspector General of Police. So where there is extortion in terms of denial of bail or before bail is granted, you can call a number, a toll-free number, and then the IG will step into action, because there are too many police stations across Nigeria. You understand what I mean? So maybe she may still answer, but this may never get to her. Because it will die in the local government or at the police station. But it's good that you brought it up. Since we are still within the southeastern presence of the Senate, we may now require Senator Oju Sokalo, because we are about to round off. So it's important that from the southeast you say something.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, my own is just at the point of caution of the Senate. The executive that comes to this room, when they are here, we used to ask the female counterparts to take a bow and go. Why are we doing a different thing in the floor of the Senate, where she deserves to take a bow and go? So, because when the executives are here, we ask the women to take a bow and go. Why? For a woman, no, I'm coming, please. For a person have gone to this level, she has served the country, and she has answered all the questions. And you people are still putting your hands up to continue keeping here. I mean, it does not make sense, my colleagues. I only want her to explain to me just one question. My name is my question is commendation. That a woman of this level has gone this far. My motion, I'm putting a motion on the floor of the Senate. I'm putting a motion on the floor of the Senate. Mr. President, I'm putting a motion on the floor of the Senate.
We will not entertain motions when we are doing this kind of important screening.
No, it's very important, but we have contradicted our rules.
I want to thank you for your contribution. I want to thank you.
We have contradicted our rules.
I want to thank you.
Our rules is that I'm moving a motion that you should take a bow and go.
Distinguished Senator Oju Sokalo, knowing that what we are doing here is very serious, and also knowing that the entire Nigerians are glued to their television to listen to the incoming Chief Justice of Nigeria, and knowing that all the embassies in Nigeria are listening to her, and knowing that the global community is listening to her. I want to, is there anybody in support of that motion? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. You are ruled out of order. Now, I must also correct you that we are not screening her as a woman. We are screening her as an incoming Chief Justice of Nigeria, substantive. And if you want to know, even in the within the bar, there is no woman. I addressed the Nigerian Bar Association recently, and I said, my dear brothers, my colleagues, my brothers and sisters, they all went mental. So finally I said, okay, I've withdrawn the sisters, my dear colleagues, and they now applauded, because when you are in this kind of position, there is nothing like woman. So there is no gender difference in the judiciary. So let me go to South. Distinguished Senator Ekong Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tributes for the nominee. The office is no doubt a very serious office. And I recall the words of Kari Esho, JSC as it then was, who said that the Supreme Court is a super court, and the justices of that court are superhuman beings. So the nominee is coming aboard at a very important time in this country. My question is on two major limbs. One, we talk so well about needs to broaden and enrich the access to justice. I want to know respectfully, my Lord, if we confirm you, will you support the position that in our attempts to further enrich the bench, some members from the academia can be brought aboard to the Spiro bench, just as it was with Elias, just as it was with Toby? Two, we also share strongly from the passions about the need for the justice system to be run in such a way that substantial justice prevails over rules of technicalities, over issues of technicalities. As the Chief Justice of Nigeria, respectfully, how would you encourage the side of opinion that substantial justice at all times must prevail over undue technicalities? I was very impressed, my Lord, when you spoke about the Supreme Court as a policy court. That answers a lot of questions. On that limb, I would like to know, how would you, in broad terms, encourage the Supreme Court to reign as a court of policy, which will deepen the confidence of the public in that court and in the justice system in this country? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But you know, she is a court of law and also a court of policy. So they must also deal with issues of law as well as issues of policy. But the fundamental question you have asked is, my Lord, will you support the elevation of lawyers from the bar straight to the Supreme Court or straight to Court of Appeal without the senior legal practitioners, without passing through the High Court, Magistrate Courts or otherwise? I think that's the question you asked. Elevation of very senior practitioners, and also elevation of people from the academic, like Professor, that's the bar. I'm talking about moving people from the bar, whether they are in their academia or whether they are in a strict legal practice. But the question is, many of them are agitating to be moved straight to the Supreme Court, boycotting the other courts. Would you support? Because you mentioned Justice Elias, and then you mentioned Nikki Toby. I don't know what happened in the case of Justice Nikki Toby, because, but I know that Justice Elias came from, I think, either from practice or whatever, straight to the Supreme Court. Am I right? So that's the kind of thing you're talking about. That by merely practicing, that they have enough experience to be moved to the Supreme Court, to populate the Supreme Court without passing through the runs. So I think she got the question. She will be able to put it well. Distinguished, I'm in South. Distinguished Senator Adams Oshomole.
Aliu Oshomole. I represent the good people of Edo North from Edo State, where my Lord, the acting Chief Judge, did our NYSC. Like everybody has said, sir, no one will look at this CV and want to ask questions. And I thought that for those who are in doubt, this training is not an act of favor or punishment. We just want to be enlightened as to have a window into the way in which the mind of the next Chief Justice of Nigeria works. So for Kalu, I needed to understand that we are not doing her any favor by saying, take a bow. In any case, that has been settled. I just want to ask one or two questions. You know, my Lord, when we complain of crowded court, the courts only adjudicate based on the judicial confined on it by Parliament. For example, when my case went to court as a governor or governorship dispute, the law then was that cases are terminated at the Court of Appeal. The National Assembly, in its wisdom, chose to remove that bar and said the cases must now terminate at the Supreme Court. So we can't overload a vehicle and then blame the driver for carrying overload. But there are a couple of issues that I believe many of us distinguished senators will be aware of. But depending on the party you belong, at the level of the state judiciaries, people tend to prefer, talking about forum shopping, to file cases before Federal High Court, particularly if it's a case in which you believe the state governor or the state government may have an interest. And how we deal with this, how the Chief Justice of the Federation can encourage judges in the states to show the same level of courage to pronounce where it's so discovered that a state government or a state interest, a state governor has crossed the red line. That people should feel able to get to go to a state high court and get justice. I don't want to rush to federal high court because of the fear that judges, in many cases at the state level, don't want to enter judgment that will be offensive to the state executive. That is recently in the state, and for obvious reasons I won't mention the state, the National Judicial Council approved the appointment of new judges, which is in line with the Constitution. But the state governor in Benin decided, I didn't mention him, I mentioned a city. The state governor in Benin refused to swear in. Excuse me.
You are protected. You did not mention the state. You only mentioned Benin.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Benin is not a state.
That's right. So, as we speak, those judges were not sworn in, even though they have been cleared by the National Judicial Council. When I was a governor, sir, there was a case, a judgment against the state government. But because the governor has immunity, the judge decided to sentence, to convict the Attorney General for contempt of court. So I'm like, if a state governor disobey a ruling of a superior court, and because the governor has immunity, there is nothing you can do, I would have expected that the Attorney General would be charged for contempt of court or showing disrespect to the National Judicial Council, so that the discretion we exercise should not be abused to the extent that all of the processes that the National Judicial Council goes through to select and approve and forward to the governor for ratification. I am sure, Mr. President, you approve many such recommendations, not necessarily because you like the persons, but in the wisdom of the National Judicial Council, they've cleared them. So I thought that there might be, like to know how, whether a legislation is required or the Supreme Court, being a policy court, what it can do to help to curtail abuse of power at the level of the state. And lastly, there was this case of Mr. I don't know whether I should mention his name, a guy who was sentenced to 3 years in prison up to the Court of Appeal. And the Supreme Court found that this was a criminal case that had to do with somebody who operated or officiated at the, I believe, MPA. He served all of the 3 years in prison. And then the Supreme Court found that he was wrongly convicted. The only benefit he's got is that he cannot now be referred to as a convict, but he suffered the punishment for 3 years. In such cases, where the lower court has misapplied the law and a citizen has been sentenced to prison and served the whole of the 3 years or even 5 years, is there a way in which the Supreme Court can order compensation for victims that suffer such humiliation for an act for which they were never guilty? And each time I see the guy on television, I wonder how he feels that he was in prison for 3 years, and the Supreme Court found that he was wrongly jailed, and yet he has suffered it and there are no compensation. I would have imagined that the court can award compensation, huge compensation, not the type that is not even enough to pay the cost of a senior advocate, but one that will also fairly compensate the victim for the period he spent in jail wrongly. Thank you, my Lord, and I also want to congratulate your family, because I've seen that you serve in virtually all the jurisdictions, north, south, east, west. That means that for most of the time, members of your family were alone. And so for you to accomplish this, I think members of your family deserve commendation as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Shumole, we have to return back to the serious business of screening and asking pertinent questions. You need to know that even outside this climb, the screening of this nature sometimes takes 42 hours. In some jurisdictions, Chief Justice of Nigeria and even Justice of the Supreme Court designates are screened for up to 2 days. So, my Lord, it's not a waste of time. It is because Nigerians have a lot of questions that they want to ask, and they cannot ask those questions. We are their representatives. We are the ones that can ask. They want to hear from you as you are coming in, because after this, hardly will anybody see you, including my colleagues here. So this is the only time we can see you. So, and that's why almost everybody is struggling to ask one question or the other to hear your perspective to issues. And then we can now focus on the judiciary in the next 5 years, commencing from the reforms we are going to bring. Distinguished Senator Ningi.
Recognize me. My name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi, Central of Bauchi State. Let me join Mr. President in welcoming you and our Lordship to this very august chamber, and further congratulate you for this very, very special
nomination. I recall seeing you in the confirmation of Justice Mohammed Tanko and Justice Ariola. You accompanied both of them. And one of the highlights of those two sessions was the issue that was raised by Senator Kwaka SAN on the issue of the ex parte order and the assurances we have then received by their lordship doing something about it. These ex parte orders, my lord, has become a tsunami in Nigeria, and therefore some of us begin to wonder how easy are these orders assessed. I can tell you straight that 6 years ago, Your Lordship, I had the opportunity of visiting a political friend in his office, and he opened his box and brought 5 ex parte orders in advance. Ex parte orders in advance, and from a competent court of jurisdiction in this country. And it makes me wonder how that is possible. And you could see within the last, by the time I met him, he was using these ex parte orders. All they were doing was to fill in the gap, fill in the dates. And he has assessed these ex parte orders in anticipation of possible problems by political opponents. And believe me, my lordship, those orders succeeded at the end of the day. Now, the question that I would like to ask you, is the hand of the judiciary tight in the possibility of not meting out sanction? Or do you need an intervention of legislation in making sure that such irresponsibility is actually made by a law of the National Assembly, making sure that it's criminalized? What's your opinion about it? I know, as a fact, you made mention of the necessity of this ex parte order, but you can see clearly it doesn't work in this country. People have these orders left, right, and center. People are trying to block road of justice at every given time. And I want, during your tenure, so that by the time the next justice is coming before the Senate, this question may not arise. But these two justices, they are sure that something will be done, and actually nothing serious is being done about this matter. Please, I want you to comment. Thank you.
Senator Kombowe Friday Benson, representing Bayelsa Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, sometime on the 10th of May 2016, while addressing an audience, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom made a very open declaration about Nigeria and Nigerians. That Nigerians are fantastically corrupt, distinguishing nobody, excluding nobody. The statement was so clear that Nigerians and Afghanistan, these two countries are the most corrupt countries in the whole world. And here we are. Sir, I want our very distinguished acting Chief Justice of the Federation to help us to explain those who David Cameron were actually referring to. Are they here? Which of them are the corrupt Nigerians? Are the senators corrupt? Is the judiciary corrupt? Which of them? Which of the Nigerians is David Cameron
referring to. Mr. President, sir, are we expecting a corruption-free moment and period of our reign in Nigeria? That is my question, sir.
Requirements of being a Chief Justice of Nigeria is to possess the power of witchcraft. To be able to interpret what a Prime Minister of United Kingdom meant with his statement. If you ask her now to explain what the Cameron meant, it means you are expecting her to possess some kind of spiritual powers that are different from her legal about her competence and her experience in legal matters, not in fact, this brings me, my Lord, you can take the stage and join it and answer this other one. Should judicial officers allow social media reports to influence their decisions? Because you see sometimes in court, some people may take like 1,000, 2,000 people to bombard, and even right now, when I was a young lawyer and I appeared before you in 1989 in the Magistrate Court in Lagos, at that time, whenever there was a case in court, nobody was expected to comment on it. But today you see very celebrated senior advocates of Nigeria sitting down on television to comment on cases that are already before either the Court of Appeal or before the Supreme Court, in an attempt to influence the outcome of those cases. And then sometimes they sponsor social media rats to go attacking the judiciary and trying to influence in one way or the other decisions that are already before the courts. And sometimes they are even the counsels to those cases. So what will you do to stop judges from bothering themselves about the opinions of people on social media, about comments by prime ministers in other countries who themselves are not clean, about Nigeria? And then you focus on the law, you focus on decided cases, you focus on your conscience and things that will promote the rule of law in Nigeria, and ignore the outcry of sponsored social media. How will you make sure that their lordships across board ignore those bringing injustice to Nigerians because of social media publications? My Lord, and then you may choose to ignore the other spiritual powers to know what the man meant. Thank you, my Lord.
Distinguished Senator Ekong Samson, Akwa Ibom South. I will address the issue of the need for substantial justice and whether there must be compliance with the issue of substantial justice and technicalities. Over the years, we have emphasized in our judgments about the need for courts to promote substantial justice over technicalities. However, I believe that sometimes there's a misconception on what constitutes technicalities, because we have rules, we have laws, we have precedents that we follow. And where a precedent is followed, it will not be correct to say that the court has enthroned technicality over substantial justice. All courts are admonished all the time to eschew technicalities, but it's not in every instance that matters are decided on technicalities. At the same time, where the court looks at the case before it and decides based on the facts and the application of the law. Sometimes the application of the law to the facts might appear to be rather technical, and this is why we also have the appellate courts who can correct errors where they are made. On the issue of elevation to the Supreme Court, I will crave your indulgence to leave that question for a different forum. Distinguished Senator Adams Oshomole from Edo North. You talked about the crowded courts dockets and the position where at a point in time matters terminated at the Court of Appeal, later on moved to the Supreme Court, and then the difference between cases filed at the Federal High Court and cases filed at the State High Courts. What I would say is that it is the legislature that enacts the laws that confer jurisdiction on the courts, and therefore anybody who has an option to go to either the Federal High Court or the State High Court is entitled to utilize that option. At the same time, where cases are decided, where it appears that a certain side is favored, the appellate procedure is there. And I think that is the only way we can curb it, unless there is clear evidence of bias or any inducement, corruption, or anything like that. But other than that, whatever decisions are given, the option is to go on appeal. And if you can satisfy the appellate court or the Supreme Court that the court concerned was swayed by other considerations, then the court will give whatever judgment is applicable in the circumstances. Now, on the appointment of new judges, the situation where judges have been recommended for appointment and they have not been sworn in that instance, the National Judicial Council has made its position very clear, and it is the National Judicial Council that gives the directive for who should be appointed. And once that is done, there is nothing more for the National Judicial Council to do. It is to the detriment of any state concerned if it is now working with a lower number of judges, and you have capable and already confirmed judges that are not being able to carry out their duties. It is not a matter that the Supreme Court can intervene in unless a matter is brought to the Supreme Court on that issue. The issue of compensation for a person who has served his time and found to be not guilty, can the Supreme Court order compensation? The Supreme Court can only decide on matters that are specifically brought before it and grant reliefs. And where there is no legislation that gives the court that power or that authority, there's nothing the court can do. At best, the court can just make an obiter comment on it, that this is a situation where, in ordinary course of things, this person ought to be compensated. But it's not for the Supreme Court to unilaterally make such an order, because everything we do has to be based on the jurisdiction that is conferred on the court. Distinguished Senator Abdul Ningi from Bauchi Central, you asked for assurances with regard to ex parte orders and an issue of ex parte orders prepared in advance, whether the hands of the judiciary is tied, and whether there should be legislation against the grant of ex parte orders. Now, the situation with ex parte orders, where it is, you see, in order to have the judiciary that we desire, we also need to be able to follow through on certain issues. If there's a situation where a judge is found to have ex parte orders prepared in advance, such a judge should be reported to the NJC and necessary action will be taken. It is not fair, even on the judiciary, when these allegations are made and nothing is done to substantiate them or to follow up on them. And we know that even when petitions are filed before the NJC, in some instances, you find that the petitioner comes back and withdraws the petition. So it is important for the NJC to be able to exercise its own powers, that these sort of matters are brought to its attention. And then the grant of ex parte order is discretionary, but there are guidelines. So where a judge is found to have ignored those guidelines, to have acted without due regard to proper process or even the facts of the matter, then the necessary action will be taken once it is brought to the attention of the National Judicial Council. As I've mentioned, the code of conduct will be strictly enforced, and judges are admonished not to grant ex parte orders indiscriminately. So it's an act of misconduct. But at the same time, it would not be proper, in my humble opinion, to enact a law that does away entirely with ex parte orders, because they are necessary in certain circumstances. Distinguished Senator Ofowe from Bayelsa Central. Pardon? Ombowe, I beg your pardon. I want to believe that his question was rhetorical, and I have, I think, the permission of His Excellency to pass it over about whether who are those corrupt people. Then, Your Excellency, your question: should judicial officers allow social media to influence their decisions? Certainly not. We have taken an oath of office to carry out our responsibilities without fear of favor, affection, or ill will. So whatever is in social media definitely should not affect the way we make our decisions. However, it is true that there is a lot that goes on social media and other fora. And this is one of the aspects that contributes to the negative perception of the judiciary, because you have narratives out there that have no correlation to the facts that are before a particular court. And again, whether they are senior members of the bar or other members of the bar, there are procedures. A senior member of the bar who has earned the rank of silk, it's a privilege. It's not a right, and that privilege could be withdrawn if it is abused. So in any of these situations, the courts too will use their own powers. We do have powers where a matter is sub judice and somebody goes out in public on the television station, media, social media, to comment on those cases, because it does have a negative effect on the administration of justice, on how we handle our cases. Because when you then give a judgment, the way it is assessed is based on what has been in social media. But notwithstanding that, I would say that judges know the oath they have taken and will abide by that oath and not be influenced by social media. Thank you.
I Lord, you were very political in the last thing that recently, very senior members of the bar, we all know them. They are fond of being on politics today. They were commenting on cases that are before either the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court. And this wasn't the case in the past. We are saying under your tenure,
yes,
will there be a procedure where you bring some of them to justice? because they ought not to, because their comments and their analysis tend to influence the final outcome of those cases, and in most instances tend to bring about injustice, because they are not aware, they are not sayers of the facts that are before their lordships.
Yes.
But they will go out there, instead of arguing the cases in the court, they will go and sit down on television and be arguing the cases on television. And for the junior lawyers, the younger ones who are coming up, they are now beginning to think that that is the norm. If under your tenure, any of those senior lawyers, brought to book to say you cannot, when the case is in court, it has become the matter is down sub judice. So if the court can invite, or even the NJC can discipline a senior lawyer who is fond of sitting down to analyze cases that are yet to be decided upon on television, in social media and all that, I think it will serve as a deterrent and will also help to bring back the integrity of the judiciary and the judicial system that we are talking about. That's why we are saying, under you, will you tolerate it? Because if you sound a clear note of warning to Nigerians, the teeming lawyers across the country will be wary that there is a new sheriff in town, and that people should stop using the social media, using televisions to try to influence judgments in their favor, instead of going to argue the matters in the court. They play to the gallery, and you see them rolling from side to side on television and all that. Sometimes for some of us who have been in practice for decades, I shudder in fear, and nobody calls them to order. So we are saying, under you, will you take steps to bring sanity to bear by collaborating with the bar and ensuring that those people are disciplined, and that matters that are sub judice should not be discussed on television, should not be discussed on pages of newspapers, should not be taken to social media, should not be taken for analysis on radios by very senior lawyers. If they lose the rank of senior advocates of Nigeria because of those actions, it will serve as deterrent to those who are. I don't know.
Thank you, Your Excellency. As chairman of the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee, we will ensure that those who should be disciplined, those who are in the habit of speaking on social media, condemning the judiciary, commenting on cases that are sub judice, will not have anywhere to hide. They will be dealt with decisively. Thank you.
I believe Nigerians are very much reassured. The chambers is totally reassured of the fact that we are coming in with a very strict hand to ensure that justice is delivered to all and sundry, and not only to those who have access to social media to abuse the people the way they like. So I thank you for the questions you have answered, and it is my humble opinion that the leader of the Senate will make a statement for you to think about while we consider we take cognizance of all the submissions you have made before us. Leader of the Senate.
This very important matter. I also want to once again thank my lords, the most senior judicial officers who have been a part of this proceeding. Mr. President, sitting as chair, we have come to the end of the first segment of this confirmation hearing. And what will be left in the second stage will be for us, as senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to look into the various issues and be able to discuss and come to a final conclusion, except to add that we also have, as part of our prerequisite, we have all the necessary reports, the security clearance from the Department of State Security, the clearance from the Office of the Inspector General of Police, all alluding to the fact that we have before us a Nigerian who is clean in the eye of the law and who is deemed by the security agencies as a fit and proper person for us to consider to be Chief Justice of Nigeria. I also need to say, Mr. President, sitting as chair, that we do not have any petition before us as a parliament that would have inhibited us from further deliberating and taking a final decision on this matter. So having said all of this, Mr. President, sitting as chair, in order for us to be able to go to the next segment of this hearing, may I most humbly, at this point, move that we allow my Lord, the acting CJN, to take a bow at this point so that she can leave us for us to continue on the further legislative activities that we need to engage in for us to conclude this process. Once again, Mr. President, sitting as chair, I thank you and our distinguished colleagues.
Minority Leader.
And cleared all the doubts here and there, I write to second the motion that we allow our nominee.
We may not be able to take all questions today. Sent a message that those who have further questions can do so in writing and pass through the chairman of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, and our office to try to do justice to those things. Now the motion for her to take a bow, so we go into other matters as we move and seconded those who are in support that she has done justice to all the questions so far asked, and that she could take a bow and lead the team of very senior judicial officers out of the chambers and lead other strangers out of the hallowed chambers of the 10th Senate. Say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it. My Lord, you may now take a bow. Senator Ningi, you may wish to take your seat. The standing orders of the Senate should be suspended to allow strangers to enter the chambers. Now, with their exit, you are saying we should restore the sanctity of the Senate and therefore invoke the rules, the standing orders of the Senate, that no stranger be allowed in the Senate henceforth for us to be able to continue further proceedings. That is one leg. The second leg is for extension of time to sit beyond 3 p.m. for us to conclude the day's sittings. Minority Leader.
Mr. President.
And seconded, that we restore the sanctity of the chambers with the exit of the strangers to continue with the normal business of the Senate, and also we extend the time within which we sit beyond 3 o'clock to conclude today's business. Those who are in support of the two motions say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes. Proceed.
That the Senate do revert to plenary to enable, just before that, Mr. President sitting as chair, I think we need to hear from you. So
Put the question. Will the Senate approve the nomination for confirmation of Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria is hereby approved.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as Chair, Secretariat, for always ensuring to properly guide.
Minority Leader.
President, sitting as Chair,
that this Chair, the August Assembly, should revert to plenary for the Chair to report progress. Those who are in support.
CFR for appointment as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The nominee answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical issues, especially as they relate to the laws of the Federation and other legal matters thereafter. The committee approved the nomination of Honorable Justice Kudirat Motomori Olatukumbo Kekereekun, CFR, as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Kudirat Motomori Olatukumbo Kekereekun for appointment as the Chief Justice of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Honorable Justice Kudirat Motomori Olatukumbo Kekereekun is hereby confirmed as the Chief Justice of the Federation of Nigeria. Let me thank distinguished senators for their patience, for their insights, their contributions to the confirmation hearing. And let me also congratulate distinguished Senator Kudirat Motomori Olatukumbo Kekereekun on her confirmation today as Chief Justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I want to wish her well and wish the entire judiciary well. I know that under her tenure, Nigeria will see justice. Justice will not only be seen, will be felt, and a lot of things in terms of reforms will come into the judicial system. Because I always describe the Nigerian judiciary system as the rich also cry. A good application of the rule of law will also help both the rich and the poor. So for this, we hope that she will stand by her words as she has enunciated them today and all the things she expatiated, and pray that with the guidance and support of this August Assembly, that she will succeed as Chief Justice of Nigeria to bring justice to all. So I congratulate her and her family. Leader of the Senate.
2024 SB 556. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate. Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2024 SB 556, first reading. Taken.
The Senate Leader.
Mr. President, in the name of most distinguished Senator Oluwole Fashuyi Cyril, on the Employees Compensation Act Amendment Bill 2024 SB 557. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title. 58. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of 8 billion naira only and 280 billion naira only, respectively. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the thrust of this bill is to consolidate the magnitude and scope of ongoing projects simultaneously within the city center and across the 6 area councils of the territory. The socio-economic impact is gratifying, and it's indeed a testament that Mr. President's renewed hope agenda is a promise made and a promise being fulfilled in quick succession. Mr. President, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, capital projects constitute the critical component of the FCT 2024 statutory appropriation with an expected significant impact on manpower and infrastructural development within the Federal Capital Territory. However, to realize the key FCT deliverables of the performance bond signed by the Honorable Minister of FCT with Mr. President at the inception of this administration, it is imperative to deliver on the following critical projects and programs that were inadvertently omitted in the FCT 2023 Statutory Appropriation Act and to meet up with the 30% requirement of Procurement Act. The details of the supplementary revenue and expenditure heads for the FCT 2024 Statutory Appropriation supplementary budget are itemized in the tables below. On table 1, Mr. President, we have the revenue sources of the supplementary budget proposal. And on the sum of 280 billion naira proposed for supplementary revenue is to augment the following priority areas of FCT 2024 statutory appropriation as detailed below. Distinguished colleagues are also invited to take note of Table 2, which deals with the augmentation proposal overhead costs, and that flows into the first half of page 3. On the second half of page 3 contains Table 3, which talks about the augmentation proposal on capital expenditure. And the details are also well enumerated, and the details continue up until page 7 of the table. The summary of 2024 supplementary budget proposal, therefore, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, is that we have a total revenue proposal in the sum of 288 billion naira, while the total expenditure being proposed is in the sum also of 288 billion naira. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, in the light of the foregoing, I humbly seek your support for the consideration and passage of the above proposal in the sum of 288 billion naira as a supplementary statutory appropriation to the 2024 Statutory Appropriation Act of the Federal Capital Territory Administration. Mr. President, I thank you as you coordinate the debate of the general principles of this bill by our colleagues so that the bill can be referred to the relevant committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Leader, for being commendable, consider the fact that we need more money and is able to garner more funds to be utilized to deal with the challenges we have in FCT. It's something very, very commendable, and I think we should look at this bill with dispatch so that this money can be deployed to enhance the status of our federal capital territory, which is a symbol of number one symbol of this country. I therefore open the debate by recognizing Senator Abdul Ningi. I'm sure he's going to be brief and commend the introduction of the bill. So you have the floor.
My name is Senator Abdul Ningi. I read through the leaders' debate, and I think without gainsaying, Wike, for whatever anybody will say about him, has actually revolutionized the project in FCT. We have seen past FCT ministers, especially the immediate past minister, and Wike has tremendously put across ideas and very prospective emergence of FCT as a leading city, not only in Africa, one of the leading cities in the world. I think what we need to do to encourage Wike is that after the city, he should be able to now take all his energies to the other local government areas connecting FCT. I would like to encourage him to keep on doing what he's doing, but I would also like the committee to take sufficient time to oversight some of these things, because I have noticed some roads that are very, very good are still being added something. Maybe there's a reason for that, but we need to pay attention to the rural communities of FCT, which are actually in need of rural development. I think I encourage this thing to go for a second reading.
Thank you, Senator Ningi. Even though it's of the PD Wiki, you can see even the opposition is in support of what Wiki is doing in FCT to implement the renewed whole agenda of our president. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekan, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, taking a cue from the submission of Senator Ningi, there's no doubt that what is currently happening in the FCT is quite outstanding, and it is highly commendable. Mr. President, I am in total support of this supplementary that the FCT is proposing. Mr. President, if you look at the document before us, you will observe that it is clear that there is a supplementary revenue of about 288 billion naira. And looking at the various developmental projects happening across the FCT, definitely there is bound to be additional revenue. And for the first time, we are having a true federal capital territory. Asphalting is going on here and there, repairs and reconstruction of roads. And I want to say this, Mr. President, even in the national budget, we have to support FCT. We have to support FCT. In the national budget, this is the federal capital territory. So in 2025, we are looking forward that we accommodate the federal capital territory very well in the national budget, so that to support whatever effort being put in place by the Honorable Minister of FCT, eyes can see and we can witness all that is happening. So I'm in total support of this document, and that we should give it an expeditious passage so that the good work can continue. I so submit, Mr. President.
Motion by the chairman Senate Committee on Appropriations, then we are good to go. And I agree there's a need we assist or we kind of support what Wike is doing in the FCT by putting more money, appropriating more money for FCT. This is a very good development, and more grace to his elbows. And Chairman Committee on Appropriation, please try to keep to your words. When the budget comes, more money should be given to FCT.
Okay, after Excellency, the President of the Senate. Sorry, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, very distinguished colleagues. I am Easter Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, first I want to commend the Minister of FCT for a job very well done. You've been able to generate revenues, and they want to apply the revenues judiciously to address the issues of the FCT. Your Excellency, a little bit of observation. Okay, there are possibilities of unforeseen circumstances at any particular point in time. So I urge the FCT to beef up its reserves for possible problems that may come up at a future point in time. When you have 288 and you are applying the entire 288, there is no provision for reserve. So going forward, there should be provision for sufficient reserves to meet up with unforeseen circumstances at any particular point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senatorial district. The Minister of FCT or the FCT administration have rekindled what our former leaders, when Lagos as capital was transferred to Abuja, during that period, you will only see skyscrapers all around the FCT. We are not seeing that until now, under the able leadership of Yesin Wike. I believe 288 billion as a supplementary request is even too small. It's too little compared to the revenue package or revenue profiles that we have around the FCT. So I know that we are going to approve this, but I also want to draw the attention of the Senate that there is need for FCT administration to work towards improving the revenue profile of FCT. There are so many leakages, and if we are able to block those leakages, FCT will make more money and there will be more development of infrastructures within the federal capital city. However, Mr. President, our oversight functions need also to be looked into. We need to do a lot of oversight over all these projects. We need to do it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Adams Oshomole. After you, Senator.
I rise to support and endorse to all the comments that have been made with regards to the laudable performance of the current leadership of the FCT, the Minister of FCT. I don't want to call his name because I think we shouldn't be dealing with persons. I think what it has shown is that we have a lot of former governors who still have energy. And when I see him doing what he's doing, I think he represents the body of former governors. And as for the last comment by Senator Sani, I think that is unnecessary with due respect to him. The essence of the Senate is to naturally oversight everything that is appropriated for. So we don't need the resolution to urge the Senate Committee on FCT that they need to oversight their function. After all, they are part and parcel of this process approving this supplementary budget. For me, the important thing is that every new revenue coming in is being rejected into infrastructure in the FCT. And this is not a request to borrow money. It's a request to spend what has been earned by the FCT. If we can run the country like that, we don't borrow, we don't rely on our local revenue, and we do as much as we see, I think people will be happy. And for those of us who have clear settlements for workers, all of those infrastructure going on in Abuja also create jobs in the Federal Capital Territory.
Thank you,
so
sir.
he is doing something that I believe in the long run, we turn the fortune of the people here from the vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle. So I commend the minister, and I endorse that we take the second reading expeditiously, recommended by others. Thank you very much, sir.
I represent the good people of Cross River North. I'll go straight to the point. Looking at this document, we all discover that a proper needs assessment has been done. So as senators who also live in Abuja, we need this infrastructure for ourselves and others who live in Abuja. So we should go ahead and pass this budget. But by way of an appeal, please, the ruling party should give us more ministers because we are performers in PDP. Thank you.
Tomorrow. Senator
for the FCT. My colleagues, I want us to be very, very sincere in a very humble manner. Each time I leave my house to come to office, and on returning, I will discover jobs and diversions of roads. We must honestly express our gratitude to this administration for the sensibility of the administration towards transforming our beloved Federal Capital Territory. I think we need to appreciate this administration in its totality. We must also commend the administration of FCT for living by the vision of this administration of President Tinubu. I would also want us to know that just as my colleague has contributed, this job that is going on within
you have
FCT,
one second.
yes, sir, within FCT has reduced a lot of criminality because our unemployed youths are engaged. My prayer is that as beautiful as Abuja is being changed, the Ministry of Work should make deliberate effort to help every state to have free means of transportation, connectivity to Abuja, because Abuja has become a place that everybody needs to see. But it shouldn't be an island. So may we have all the states well connected to Abuja with good roads, so that the beauty of Abuja will be seen by all Nigerians. I support this.
Thank you, Senator Abbas. Out of the floor. Thank you. To speak, you can go to your seat after Nwoko you speak.
Mr. Elated at seeing the amount of work being done by the Minister of FCT. I am much more even happy because he is from South. I think he's probably the first minister from South for FCT, and he's doing very well. But let me tell you one particular event that speaks volumes about his capacity. About 3 months ago, I was invited as the chairman to commission a health center in FCT, Caroline Medical Center. It's a kidney specialist hospital, newly built. But when I got there, the road was so bad. It's in the outskirts of FCT, behind Sun City. And I promised the hospital management that I would meet with the minister, which I did. The next day, I went to see him. There and then, he invited his team and asked them to go and do the scoping for the road. As we talk now, I can tell you that the work is ongoing on that road. So I wish we're going to have governors and ministers reacting to needs like this generally. That way,
Thank you. Your time is off, Senator Orwell.
I remain Orwell Onyeso. I represent Rivers East, the treasure base of the nation. And like you know, we are the reason for what you're talking about now. We nurtured, incubated, and lectured and tutored him. That is our trademark. And that if he continues to enjoy the type of support he's getting from the Senate, pleasant surprise, will remain the order of the day. So I want to thank everybody for the very wonderful support you have given to the Minister for FCT. He will continue to work for the interest of the country. And like my colleague from the PDP just said here, we want to appeal that in view of the very wonderful performance of the minister from PDP, that more PDP persons should be considered for very important duties so that this country will go forward. Thank you very much. So on that note, I appeal to everybody to very expeditiously help in the passage of this bill.
Hello, okay, your time is off. Thank you very much for your contributions to this debate. And no one really say anything against this bill. It shows that the bill is popular and well accepted, considering the fact that the minister was able to garner money outside the normal revenue projection for the year. He went extra by getting more money into the coffers of the FCT administration. This is a welcome idea. It's something that we call on other agencies of government to take cue from this. We're not talking about lack of actualization of revenue projection. No. He has gone beyond that. He has gone beyond the projections, the revenue profile. He went outside that to garner this money. So if other agencies can do so, then we'll not be talking about lack of money in the country. So we urge all others to take cue from what the minister is doing by really moving in to muster money for the FCT. Even though the minister, Chairman Committee on Finance is saying that there are more potentials. Chairman, if you have any idea of more revenues to come into the coffers of FCT administration, the minister is somebody who has open door policy, somebody who is open-minded. You can reach out to him, tell him those potentials, tell him those leakages so that he can make more money, so that next time you bring supplementary appropriation of about 600 or billion or thereabout. So this is commendable, and we urge all other agencies and ministries to take you from what the minister has done. I'm more grateful to the efforts of the Honorable Minister. Those in favor that the bill be now read a second time, please say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Clerk of the Senate. Chairman, Senate Committee, NDDC, you are disturbing Chairman, Senate Committee on
Take your seat.
Interior. You are disturbing him. A bill for an act to issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration account the total sum of 288 billion naira only arising from a need to accommodate additional inflows from internally generated revenues, IGR, and other revenues in the sum of 8 billion only, and 280 billion naira only, respectively, and for other related matters 2024 SB 559, second reading taken. The bill is referred to the Committee on FCT and Committee on FCT Area Council to report back tomorrow. The Leader of Senate.
Trust Fund Act Amendment Bill 2024 SB 373. Distinguished colleagues will recall that the Senate and the House of Representatives passed different versions of the National Assembly Library Trust Fund Act Amendment Bill 2024. The Conference Committee of both chambers have met and harmonized the differences in accordance with Senate Standing Order 86. Mr. President, with your permission, I move the motion for the Senate to adopt the conference report. I so move, Mr. President.
The Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that you invite distinguished Senator Nwemboli to lay the report.
Senator Boye, please.
Distinguished colleagues, before you is a conference committee report on the National Assembly Library Trust Fund.
You lay first. You lay first.
I'm coming, sir.
Lay the report.
Okay, sir.
Move the motion, sir. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
Move the motion.
I'm coming, sir. Humbly move that I be permitted to lay the report for possible consideration and adoption. Thank you, Your Excellency. The report, you may recall that National Assembly Library Trust Fund Act Amendment Bill 2024 was accordingly passed by the Senate on Wednesday, 6th of March 2024, and the House of Reps on 20th March 2024, respectively. However, some differences were noticed in the versions of the bill passed by both two chambers, hence the need for the Conference Committee to harmonize the differences. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Conference Committee met severally and jointly considered different provisions in the clauses of the two bills and harmonized them accordingly. Mr. President, the Conference Committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate and House of Reps do consider and adopt the Conference Committee report on a bill for an act to amend the National Assembly Trust Fund Establishment Act of No. 11, 2022, change the name of National Assembly Library Trust Fund to National Assembly Library Resource Center, provide additional source of fund for the Resource Center, eliminate the ambiguity in the chairmanship position and that of the Governing Council, streamline the functions and duties of the Governing Council and Office of Director General, and other related matters 2024. In conclusion, Mr. President, on behalf of the members of this committee, we wish to thank you for this opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you, and may God bless Nigeria.
Thank you. This is very straightforward. Our library, the two bills were passed, and there were gray areas where we had differences in terms of our presentations or our submissions. Now, those areas have been agreed upon, harmonized. It's our own entity here. It's not something that is complicated or something that needs further debate. For that reason, let me put the question. Those that agree that this report be adopted, please say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So, that's okay. So, we should adjourn, right? Huh?
distinguished colleagues, it has been a well-spent...
Tomorrow, the 26th.